Good morning and welcome to the final day of Tamebay Live, and we've got a great session to kick off the day with. Before I introduce the speakers, I'd just like to remind you to make full use of the networking areas on the Tamebay Live platform. You can meet with colleagues, sit down at the coffee tables for video chats, but also don't forget to go and visit our presenting partners showcases. Linnworks and all of the other businesses that are presenting this week have got a showcase on the platform. So if you want to find out more about them, or you've got any questions that didn't get answered during the session, go along there. They've got some content you can download and add to your delegate bag. They've got colleagues on the show that you can chat to immediately. And if you're in a hurry, all you need to do is go to our presenting partner showcase. So for instance, go to the Linnworks showcase, click their guest book, and that will let Linnworks or any of our other partners know that you want them to get back in touch with you after the event. If you have added content to your delegate bags, don't forget to download it before the end of the day, because today is the last day of the show. You won't be able to get back in to pick up your delegate downloads tomorrow. Now, during this session, as with all of our speakers this week, Callum and his guests have kindly agreed to take questions at the end of the session. So if you've got any questions during this session, you'll see a little red box between your screen. Just pop your question in there. It'll come straight through to myself, and I'll put as many of those questions to our panel in about 40 minutes time. So finally, all sessions are being recorded. So if there's other sessions you want to watch or you've missed a session, don't worry. Very, very soon we'll get them all on the Tamebay Live website so that you can view them at your leisure. So stick with us here on this session, because we've got some great speakers. Callum Campbell, CEO of Linnworks, who I'm sure many of you know, but maybe you don't know the scope of Linnworks. They work with companies like Ford, Casio, Belkin, really, really large businesses, and also many smaller merchants. And over the years, I've seen some of the businesses using Linnworks grow from being small to actually being massive. Now, Callum became Linnworks CEO in 2017. Before that, he founded AutoNative, which is a global automotive e-commerce software and services business, where he still currently sits as a board member. Joining Callum is Nadia, who's the content and growth strategist for Linnworks. And she focuses on developing content and guides to help e-commerce businesses grow and succeed. So if you've downloaded some Linnworks brochures before, you can probably thank Nadia for some of that great content. And finally, Linnworks guest today is Cass Patton, who is the founder and CEO of onbuy.com. And I've been watching onbuy over the last couple of years. Their rate of growth is absolutely phenomenal. And Cass has utilized decades of business insights to drive their mission to bring fair and transparent e-commerce to the world and offer an alternative platform to some of the more established platforms. So without further ado, welcome Callum, welcome Nadia, and welcome Cass. Callum, I think you're muted at the moment, but a huge welcome to Tamebay Live, and looking forward to hear what you've got to say today.
Thanks, Chris, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Linnworks session on where to next for marketplaces, how a total commerce approach can take your business to the next level. I think Chris has already done the introductions, fantastic introductions this morning, so I'm going to hand straight over to Linnworks CEO Callum and his guest Cass to take us through the session.
Great, thanks very much, Nadia. So yeah, welcome everybody to this session. Hopefully got a really good kind of 50 minutes or so in store. I'll be very brief, but I'm Callum, CEO at Linnworks. Hopefully you come across us before. If you've not, we're a commerce automation platform. We work with brands and retailers. We help them sell their products all across the internet, across different channels, and connect their commerce operations so they can deliver great experiences to their customers. So as Chris mentioned, work with a whole host of large global brands, as well as many thousands of different merchants in different territories across the world. So great to be here with you today, and really great to have Cass on the line. So Cass, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I'm Cass Payton, CEO, founder of onbuy. Hopefully you've heard of onbuy. We launched 4.5 years ago, growing very, very quickly. We set out to really revolutionize the e-commerce market. We said that we wanted to bring transparency and a level playing field for retailers to be able to reach customers in in a non-competitive format. We don't sell any of our own products. We're very much a partner to the retailers that sell on our platform. As a consequence of that, as you can imagine, we opened our doors 4 years ago with nothing to sell. It's slow burn in the first 12 months, but very quickly our message was able to resonate, and we've been able to rocket into 600% year-on-year growth. And actually, we've grown for 13x in 13 months. So we're really driving sales and value for our customers, and allowing all of our consumers to get an increasingly better experience as we invest in our platform and strengthen in the market. It's just been a very exciting journey. We're about to roll out internationally, so the opportunity is only going to broaden.
Great, thanks very much, Cass. Cool. Well, look, what I want to do is briefly kick us off by kind of framing up a bit of what's going on in the wider e-commerce macro landscape, and then we'll jump into a bit of kind of discussion and Q&A around some more of the specifics. So really where I want to start was with this idea of the rise of the effortless economy. This is what we at Linnworks really understand of how the world is evolving for brands and retailers globally. So the core idea here is that commerce is moving closer to the consumer. I think we can probably all feel and have experienced that in our own lives. If we just look at this chart and we think back in time, there was once a time where we wanted to buy product, we had to leave our homes, go down the street, go to a store and buy product. That was the only route that we could take. That was a high effort experience. That moved forward with the introduction of the internet and digital technology. Suddenly, we could shop from home across different websites. That became a highly convenient experience. We didn't even need to leave our home if we wanted to access product. That's taken another step forward to this world of singular convenience, the idea of the everything store, being able to shop all products in one environment on platforms like Amazon or like on platforms like OnBuy, whereas consumers, we don't even need to bounce around the internet if we want to access anything. And really the world that we're heading towards, I believe, is one where it's all about commerce comes to you, effortless consumption for the consumer, where actually product will be made available to you and I, wherever we're choosing to spend our time online, wherever we're choosing to shop and wherever we're choosing to be entertained. So I think this is best captured in what we're seeing with platforms like Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, Google, BuzzFeed also becoming commerce enabled. So really there's this continuum of commerce that is emerging. And that's really fantastic for the consumer, because ultimately the consumer has come to expect this effortless commerce, not only in terms of how they buy product, i.e. the channel that they're on, but it's about how they discover product, purchase product, how product is delivered to them. So, after the whole experience of just having product surfaced to you, actually the product's then delivered to you as a consumer on your terms. And then increasingly the post-sale experience as well. It's all centered around the consumer. So we're coming to expect all products and services available to us for instant purchase, i.e. stock is available. We don't like it going on a website and we get to the checkout and suddenly the product's not available for us to purchase in that moment. Super frustrating. We want that product to be available for us wherever we're spending our time as consumers. It's happening on our terms increasingly. It's delivered on our terms. And of course, we're used to shopping across all different types of devices in this age, be it tablet, mobile, on the mobile phone, on our laptops, which I'm speaking through right now, and so on. So really that is the modern consumer experience. And it's so important for brands and retailers to understand that if they're to position effectively for this new world, if they are to win in the effortless economy. And so there are a number of different challenges that emerge off the back of the rise of the effortless economy, off this demand for convenience from the consumer. And one in particular that I just want to highlight is this challenge number one. It's all about connecting commerce channels. So as a brand or as a retailer, if I understand that my customer might not just show up in my bricks and mortar store, they might not just show up on my website, then where is my customer spending their time? How do I do total commerce? How do I go from having a partial offering where I might have limited reach into the market to a total offering, a total commerce offering, where actually I'm capable of selling through my bricks and mortar channel, through my own first party web channel, but also through marketplaces and potentially on social commerce channels, through websites, and also I believe other new channels will increasingly emerge. One example I like to give is the Uber example. Uber itself is a platform. I believe in future, what we're going to see is, you're heading over to a friend's house on a Friday evening for dinner, you jump in the Uber, you're a captive audience on their platform. And so as you're traveling in that Uber will be able to suggest to you, hey, how about you pick up this bottle of wine en route, click and collect, as you head over to your friend's house. So I believe, all of these channels are becoming commerce enabled. And the challenge for the brand or the retailer is, how do I do total commerce and make sure that I stay connected with my customers, I stay relevant, and ultimately I capture every revenue opportunity. And so within that context, marketplaces are super important. So we just move through to the next slide. What we'll see here is that actually marketplaces are capturing an increasing share of the e-commerce landscape. There's a few stats on screen here. Firstly, the one on the left, so 90% of shoppers are found to be starting their product search on marketplace. Now, of course, we recognize Amazon is capturing a huge amount of this kind of top of funnel activity, more so than Google these days. But actually, marketplace as a whole are becoming increasingly strong. We're seeing the emergence of a lot of different, more niche category specific marketplaces, very strong challenger players like OnBuy coming through that are capturing that search activity. And so it's really important that brands and retailers are thinking about how they're present in those search environments. Secondly, 62% of global online retail sales are made up of marketplace sales. So what we're seeing here is actually marketplace represents significantly over 50% of the market. So as a brand or a retailer, if you're saying no to marketplace, then you're saying no to a very large section of the market. And so it doesn't mean that marketplace should be everything to you, but it needs to be considered in a holistic strategy. And then thirdly, final stat here, 80% marketplace growth year on year in Q4 2020. So that's versus the previous year. It's double the rate of general e-commerce growth in marketplaces. So that's really telling not only of the growth that we're seeing in e-commerce as a whole, but actually how marketplace is outperforming the wider e-commerce market. And therefore, again, it's really important that's considered seriously as part of a very complete and holistic go-to-market strategy. So I'll kind of wrap my opening thoughts up there and just hand over to Cass, who I'm really excited to be joining us today. OnBuy is really exciting marketplace, headquartered in the UK, but growing internationally. Great to be partnered with OnBuy. So Cass, over to you to tell us a little bit more about OnBuy, and then we'll jump into the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Now, following on from my introduction to the platform, you can see clearly from the chart that's in front of you at the moment, getting a platform online that really wants to make a difference is difficult. One of the things that OnBuy has really brought to the table is the ability for retailers to be able to partner with a singular platform and not be competed with. I'm sure many people listening on the call know exactly what I'm talking about when I use the terminology cat and mouse game on marketplaces, which is quite often you're selling on marketplaces that are trying to compete with you, source the products that you sell, manufacture alternative products to what you sell, and therefore retailers are continuously both trying to find new things to bring to the table, being the ones who have to invest in trying new products, and also potentially keeping some products off certain marketplaces to try and keep their secret bread-winning products away from those marketplaces. And OnBuy sought to really challenge the position in the market for most retailers and say, look, every single pound that's sold on OnBuy on a product is a pound turnover for a retailer. We do not sell goods. Our sales are your sales. Off the back of getting that message across and being able to grow, we've been able to shoot forward very, very quickly and build a viable platform that's proven itself very quickly in the market to be a disruptive channel, a channel that really can bring incremental value for our retailers. And as a consequence of that, we're already now at 36 million products, and with huge growth plans to onboard retailers, products, and introduce new services so that we can help customers buy products better. But still, the core message is we're a partner to those retailers, and therefore, you can really rely on OnBuy as a good outlet for growing your business. We expect this growth to continue, maybe not 600% per year, because that's quite a big number, but certainly continue ahead of average market trends. So while many marketplaces, as Callum alluded to, have seen 80% growth. Our numbers significantly larger than that. And it's really helping to build the relationship with customers because now our customers understand the value that OnBuy brings to the table. Our consumers are coming back to us. Our retention rates are increasing. Quite often, I think retailers get a bit of a misunderstanding when you talk about marketplaces because they think that, really they're going to cannibalize their sales, that they're going to be competed with by the marketplace. And it's not entirely accurate. Quite often, marketplaces have a pool of, consistent retention, customers that like and enjoy using those marketplaces. And when you connect to those marketplaces, you're increasing your coverage and you're reaching new customers that otherwise would be very difficult, as a retailer to attract. So hopefully that's a great introduction to Linnworks and OnBuy and how you can really scale your business to grow faster.
Great, thanks, Cass. Yeah, I think that's a great demonstration of how powerful marketplaces are, and just in terms of reach and growing your customers. So, which kind of brings us on to the discussion point. So, why sell on a marketplace? At what point do you make this the decision when you're growing your business to move into a marketplace? So Cass, how should a business decide on whether at what point marketplace selling strategy is right for their growth strategy, and then which marketplace to utilize? Because there's so many these days. There's platforms like OnBuy, but then there's also, if you're in fashion, you can go onto a niche fashion platform. So how do you assess the opportunity and which one's right for you?
Yeah, I find this conversation fascinating I'm I sit and strategize with businesses that are saying, why should we sell on marketplaces, or should we sell on marketplaces? And the truth is, quite often you find, I'm yet to find a business that wouldn't benefit from selling on marketplaces. Sometimes there's a misunderstanding around what it means to sell on marketplaces. There's quite a few retailers over the years that have come and said, look, I don't want to sell on marketplaces because I truly feel there's going to be cannibalization. We want to grow our own customer base. And I think that's a misconception, because as I just alluded to, you have such a huge pull from loyal customers on marketplaces that would be very difficult, if not impossible, for retail businesses to attract. And the net result of that is, if you're not joining marketplaces, you're truly not reaching the whole market, which is something that Callum referred to in the earlier discussion. So I'm yet to find a business that wouldn't benefit from a marketplace strategy. When you talk about which marketplaces, it's a really interesting subject. What the rise of niche marketplaces, for example, is a really interesting point. One of the things that we've started to see across the market was, venture capital companies backing marketplaces that were niche because there was this perceived USP for the customer. But also, I'm yet to find a niche marketplace that isn't trying to expand beyond the niche, because it's quick to learn that actually to focus on the customer, not just the product type, but the customer's behavior, you need the whole market. So for example, if you have a bikes marketplace and load of bike retailers joining the marketplace, well, it's truly difficult to offer the customer a well-rounded, full approach to the market. Because if I'm a bike marketplace only selling bikes, then I'm only going to want bike companies to sell on my platform. And actually the toy companies, the overstock businesses, the companies that buy products from liquidation, where bikes might be part of their range and actually might be a really good price for the customer, they're not joining the niche marketplace to only list a small subset of products. And this is where, broad marketplaces really capturing the audience so well. OnBuy has done such a fantastic job of launching 6,600 categories to market. And as a consequence, customers know that they're able to build that loyalty with the marketplace and familiarize and find the convenience in coming back and being able to buy any product that they feel is appropriate for them. And it's the broad marketplaces that I believe, like OnBuy, add the most value for customers, because customers, sellers can join a platform like OnBuy and know they're tapping into the convenience shopping of the customer, where the customer is thinking, I want to buy something, I'm familiar, I can load my app, or I can browse the website, buy that product. So now I think marketplace strategy is viable for any business. And I invite, I've always invited conversations from businesses that just want those answers to talk to the teams at OnBuy. And I'm sure they can talk to the teams at Linnworks and get essentially the same outcome.
Yeah. Which leads me on to the question for Callum. So from a logistics perspective, at what point do businesses need to be ready internally to then start thinking about marketplaces? What do they need to have in place to move forward?
Yeah, I think, like, as many of us will know, from running e-commerce businesses and my own experience of this, actually what happens at the transactional level is almost the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much operational overhead beneath the surface. And so the huge amount to consider, I think really it comes down to, have you got three things? Have you got the ability to manage your product information? Ultimately, a marketplace operates like a search environment for the consumer. That's part of the draw of the marketplace. So do you have product information that is enriched so that your products will be discovered on the given marketplace you're looking at? I think that's the first one. Secondly, is around inventory. So going back to that point I made earlier around consumers expect effortless commerce. We want to make sure that inventory, you've got to make sure that your inventory or your product is actually stocked on the given channel. Nothing worse for us as a consumer when we've got our heart set on a product and we simply can't buy it in the moment that we actually feel that we need it. And so making sure that your product information is correct and enriched, but also making sure that your stock is available and that you've got a very strong kind of inventory management back end that means that you're winning on that marketplace channel or whichever channel you're on, and probably the multiple channels that you're on. And then just thirdly, I guess the order management piece as well. It's all well and good having the product information. It's all well and good having the stock, but ultimately you're there because you want to drive revenue growth. You want to drive sales. So you need to be able to capture those orders, collect them, and get them to the customer, deliver on the promise that was made at checkout, and make sure the post-sale experience is really strong as well. So there's lots to consider. And I think, again, making sure you've got the right technology. Of course, from Limworks, I'd be saying that. But, whatever the solution you go with, making sure that you've got that operational backbone in your business that can ensure that actually you can deliver on the promise for the consumer is so important.
Great. And I think that kind of leads us on nicely to the sort of next question, really, around the selling challenges, which we know marketplaces can be highly competitive. Your products are right in there with potentially right next to competitors. And there's a lot of competition to get the eyeballs and convert those people that are searching. So Cass, how can retailers sort of bring in their customer experience and their brand differentiation when selling on a marketplace? How can they be competitive and really overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah, obviously recognize the what used to be referred to as a race to the bottom on price for marketplaces. And one of the things that Onbuy sought to do when we first launched was really try and change the approach to how things are ranked, looking at how the reviews generated by the retailer or the transit times, or trying to build into their offering a stronger warranty piece, which is something that Onbuy is really focusing on. So actually, trying to look at other ways, because it's not just about price, it's about experience, and the customer getting the experience that they expect from commerce in 2021, which is extremely fast delivery and trying to get things, at the best cost at the best price. So, the lowest shipping at the best price. And what we see is that our algorithms are evolving around that user behavior. So retailers can really tap into Onbuy and get benefits from the fact that if they can speed up the delivery of their product, they can get couriers that are delivering that best service that result in better reviews, that the customers prefer to order from better reviewed sellers, and where the transit times are reasonable. There's always going to be a sense and nature of price, but that's the market we're in. The market we're in now is the consumers are very price centric, and they want to try and get the products they want at the best price. But we also work with a lot of retailers that are trying to introduce price parity across multiple channels, brands that are trying to protect their brand value, and actually working with marketplaces. Quite often, especially for brands, quite often the marketplaces have protective measures for brands so that they can build in mechanisms of authorized distributors or authorized resellers, making sure that their brand is correctly displayed. That videos, rich content, data is something Callum was sort of pushing towards, so that products and the experience that's given to the customer is very strong. And actually, we see that when you have two competing products, the product that has the better data, where the retailer or the brand is submitting all of this rich information, performs so much better, because shopping is still an experience. For a customer to be able to log on and truly understand what they're buying, it is always going to outshine, a few pennies of price.
Yeah, and Callum, so obviously there's some of these challenges can put sort of impact revenue. There's a huge volume opportunity with marketplaces, but there are some challenges to making it profitable. So what are sort of the biggest logistical challenges sort of to setting up on a marketplace to making sure that you're optimizing this channel and really making it a strong selling channel for your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think just to, before I jump into that, I think on Cass's point as well, the piece around price, although, you know, consumers go onto marketplace because they care about price, actually what we're increasingly seeing in the effortless economy is actually convenience is the number one priority, and quality. So at Linworks, we recently conducted a study of over 1,000 shoppers, kind of released a white paper on this around the effortless economy. And what we found from consumers across the UK and North America was actually that convenience was their number one priority when selecting a retailer, more so than price. And so actually, you know, to Cass's point, quality, convenience, that level of trust is the primary driving factor for the modern consumer. And I certainly feel that myself. I can see how my own shopping habits have evolved, and convenience increasingly does. Like, I would be willing and regularly willing to pay that bit more if I knew I could get the product on my terms, or I trust the seller and so on. So definitely a super important point there. And I think a big part of that is then the operational challenge that sits behind that for the brand or the retailer to make sure they're delivering that level of convenience. So I think, so the first challenge that I alluded to earlier is, well, okay, if you're wanting to sell on marketplaces, how do you connect your commerce channels? Again, sort of going back to that total commerce picture, if you're wanting to be in multiple different environments at the same time, then how do you actually make your products available for purchase on platforms like OnBuy, but also on your website at the same time, also potentially on Facebook at the same time? So how do you build a multi-channel approach and actually be operating your business simultaneously across these different channels? So I think that is the first big challenge. And again, I think technology can play a major role in overcoming that challenge and unlocking that additional reach and that additional revenue opportunity. And then I guess the second challenge is, so going back to what I mentioned about being beneath the tip of the iceberg, is really the commerce operations. Again, once you're selling on a marketplace or multiple different channels, how do you bring together your commerce operations across your product information management, across your inventory, across your orders, into one central environment in a way that means that you can automate your workflows? So what we see time and time again as we're working with brands and retailers is that e-commerce is becoming increasingly central in their business, particularly for those who have operated offline in the past. It's now the center of gravity for their business. But being on multiple channels at the same time is expensive. It can feel like if you do it in a very manual way, the cost base rises very fast. And ultimately, your unit economics break down. You can lose scalability in your business and ultimately the ability for your business to grow profitably. And so again, I think the challenge to overcome here when you're selling on marketplaces and different channels at the same time is connecting your commerce operations so that you automate your workflows, you drive down that cost base, and you have a scalable backbone in the business. And that means that you can go after opportunities on new channels, you can be agile, you can drive more revenue, and you're actually going to have a highly viable business model. So I think those two things really, in summary, the challenges of selling on marketplaces. Firstly, how do you connect into all these different channels? But secondly, how do you kind of connect the commerce operations together in a way that means your business has a kind of strong core economic base at the center of it?
Whoops, I'm unmuted myself. Yeah, great. And that brings us on to an interesting discussion point around, and this is kind of an oversimplification in light of the discussion around total commerce, is marketplaces versus direct to consumer. These are two quite distinct channels, or can be. How do you differentiate, or how do you make these both work for your sales growth strategy? So Cass, what have you seen in terms of the key elements that retailers should focus on when managing their multi-channel strategy? So when their direct or their website business, or as we call it, direct to consumer, and then coming onto a marketplace, what do you think? How do you think they should operate these two channels in synergy?
Yeah, I think quite often this is actually misunderstood by a lot of retailers that feel that their direct to consumer channel is their primary focus and channel. And actually what we try and do is educate the retailers when they work with us to say, you know, the first thing for you to do to be able to scale your business really quickly is to focus on the technology that you need first. Because if you put a system like Linworks at the forefront of your operation, and you're able to use Linworks as the primary source of your data, Linworks will power your D2C website. It will power your marketplaces and therefore make your whole business convenient, because now your inventory management, your warehouse processes, your courier processes are all charged through platforms like Linworks that take away the difficulty. Otherwise, you're constantly, what we find is businesses coming to us that are D2C, and then they try and do something separate with the software specifically for marketplace, and try and reverse engineer a solution that connects their two products, that keeps their D2C platform as their lead platform. This becomes extremely expensive, creates disconnect between their whole operation. And there's platforms like Linworks that are there to simplify the way that they trade. The other thing is to focus on D2C specifically, because what we see, with the rise of Shopify, with the rise of big commerce, fantastic platforms that have really helped businesses to scale into e-commerce easier than ever and have their own channel. What's misunderstood in that equation quite often is the difficulty of actually growing a D2C channel, selling directly to the consumer, and understanding the true costs of that versus, the costs, fixed costs in many cases, of selling through multiple channels. So when we speak to customers, even when we take our on-buy hat off, which is very hard to do, we're on-buy centric, of course, but taking the on-buy hat off and saying, just look at your business model. If you are trying to grow your own channel, you now have more competitors than ever before. So easy for people to set up Shopify, your Shopify sites, your big commerce sites, launch with Magento Cloud, and actually the competition in that space is going through the roof. Your cost of acquisition of new customers is going to be very expensive, maybe more expensive than you realize. And when you look at marketplaces, quite often people think, well, that's the selling fee for marketplace. That's quite expensive. And we often believe that's because they're underestimating the cost of their actual direct to consumer costs. And when you start to look at the direct to consumer costs and say, how much does it cost me to sell to a customer? And that's not just your marketing costs. That's the team in your marketing team, the platform costs, the cost of managing the inventory specifically for that channel, the promotional costs on that channel, the discounts on that channel, as well as the cost of acquisition across investing in organic, investing in paid, investing in social. Add all of those costs together, and quite often it's going to produce a number that's far higher than the fixed cost of selling on platform like OnBuy, where we're 5 or 9%. You can build that straight into your business model, know exactly the cost of acquisition. There's no risk there. You can use promotion tools if you want to, but that's only if they work for your business. And you can build a business very quickly, tapping into customers that you don't have the risk of acquiring. So actually, getting your business set up in the right way with the right technology, connecting to multiple platforms and using those platforms to their individual advantages. Amazon, clearly, not knocking Amazon at all, huge customer base. So you can use that customer base to rapidly accelerate your business. What we ask customers, or resellers to do on OnBuy is look at OnBuy a bit differently. If you were to sell on 2 channels and one of those channels is actually looking to, potentially compete with you, source their own product, play this cat and mouse game, and a platform that isn't, then maybe your strategy across those channels will be slightly different. Where would you rather invest long-term, in terms of securing customer base from those channels? Who's really partnering with you? That's for you to decide. But the technology in the middle is really the key to success. And there's nothing wrong with growing a direct-to-consumer business alongside a clear strategy to reach new channels. I think that's the obvious play for most retailers, to be able to scale much faster than simply focusing on one or the other.
Yeah, great. And Callum, you sort of opened with talking about this concept of total commerce and how brands need to operate now. So within that, the marketplace versus direct to consumer argument is a little bit redundant, because essentially you need to be wherever your customers want to shop. So how does marketplaces versus direct to consumer sort of fit with the total commerce approach?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question that's front of mind, I think, for pretty much every brand and retailer that I'm speaking to at the moment. But I think it comes down to that core principle of understanding the customer and doing commerce on their terms. And I think if you get that right, and that thinking is the center of your business, then the rest begins to follow. So I think it's not one or the other in my mind. It's how do you build a blended approach? How do you build the right mix of channel, product, and customer? How do you understand, for example, which types of customers are shopping in which environments, because it will be a different profile of customer, or it might even be the same profile of customer as an individual, but a different moment in terms of how they're going about their buying. They might have much more brand-driven buying experience, so they head to a website, versus a solution-driven buying experience where they go to a marketplace and they actually are looking for choice, because actually it's more of a solution-driven approach. So I think a blended approach, from my perspective, is definitely the answer. And I think increasingly the way that the top brands, the top retailers are going, I don't think they want to write off that own first-party channel, because they know they can understand the consumer really well there. But they're also recognizing that it wouldn't make sense in their business to write off, over 60% of the market. That's simply where consumers are spending their time. And so I think getting that kind of blended approach between channel, customer, and product, understanding which products take to which channels, to which customers, is really what it's down to. Therefore, in that context, I think you don't miss out on any revenue opportunity. And I think the other thing, so maybe coming back to a kind of, probably a more Limworks centric view of the world, but is if you can get sort of operationally set up in a way that means you can do your direct to consumer and your marketplace channels equally effectively, then really in the back end, what you're doing is you're collecting data to understand your market opportunity better. So if you have a blended approach, you build your data sets in the back end, and actually suddenly you're in a position where, as Cass mentioned, you have the ability to be agile, to understand the market, and to move into channels where there's opportunity. And so right now we're seeing, Onbuy as an example, absolutely flying, like 600% growth, massively outperforming not only marketplace, but the actual, the market as a whole. So there's a huge opportunity right there in that environment where customers are going there, something's clearly working, there's a great experience. So how do brands and retailers have that agility to not only run their D2C environment, but actually to move into these fast growth channels and make sure that they don't miss out on the revenue opportunity there?
Great. So that brings us on to sort of the key question now for the audience, I guess, is if you're ready to go and you sort of got a clear strategy, you've assessed it, and you want to move into marketplaces, how do you get started? What are sort of the key steps? So Cass, what are some of the key elements you've seen businesses that have set up successfully on your marketplace sort of have in place when they get set up and start selling on marketplaces?
Yeah, I mean, we've probably covered a little bit of this as we've moved forward. The key thing is making sure your foundations are correct. Now, whether that's using your technology platforms like Limworks, which can give a very efficient bridge and save huge cost in versus direct development, where that's quite often misunderstood how complex that can become, managing multi-channel and worrying about every single integration and then so many things to learn and optimize that can go wrong. You need a pretty significant development team if you're seeking to not use a platform like Limworks. So what we generally say to customers, and quite often customers come and say, no, we have some technology in-house, we can code into your API, we can do that. And of course, we're all for that. We have the APIs, we have the abilities to do that. But if they come with a platform like Limworks already ready to rock and roll, and they already understand the value of those channels, it's always faster. We can launch a client onto Unbuy in a matter of hours from Limworks, not days or weeks when you're talking about the technology. And that's got to be the same across every channel. So actually you add them all up together, and the investment in a platform like Limworks typically allows our customers to move much faster and connect to more places quicker. And as long as you can leverage the successes of the individual channels, for example, if Unbuy is charging a bit less, then try and pass some of those savings on, utilize these things to your advantage to steer customers, and actually knowing that Unbuy doesn't compete with you, then actually it's a no-brainer. So I think that the first bit's the technology. Second bit's the mindset. They always try to get across to the retailers, the biggest thing with marketplace is making sure you understand how to maximize the opportunity. Looking at your prices, looking at your offering, make sure that you approach things the right way. Because quite often retailers come to us and say, I'm just going to give you my best selling products first. Let's see how that goes. And it's a misunderstanding of how marketplaces, particularly emerging marketplaces, need to work. For us to build customer trust, we have to have range. We have to be able to show the customer that we are an expert in what they're looking to buy. If you're the industry expert in your range, then actually giving us your whole range helps our customers to understand that OnBuy is the right place to buy this product. Doesn't mean that you're cannibalizing your current sales. These are this is our customer base. These are customers that come back to us month on month, but they're constantly looking for new things. Send your whole range, look at your pricing structure, and also think, I'm joining onto new platforms. Are there any promotional activities or services that those platforms offer for me to get a boost on those platforms? How fast can you get visible on new platforms to maximize opportunity? Good thing is we have, in-house, we have onboarding agents, we have specialist strategic seller teams here to actually help retailers to maximize how they can actually join the platform and increase their sales very, very quickly on the platform. So how can you get the most from OnBuy as quickly as possible? And very easily you can learn more at onbuy.com/sell, and you can get a steer, speak to our team, and there's people there to help you. And that advice is not just unique to OnBuy. You're going to get advice around how to actually grow your business on platforms. And you'll see when you go to OnBuy and look at onbuy.com/sell, you'll start to see that, the first step is the technology. We immediately start to ask you, which platform are you using? Are you looking to directly integrate? Are you using Limworks? And therefore you can already see that's the cornerstone of the success.
Great, yeah, and similarly with you, Callum, what from the logistics side, what's the key to successful sort of launch strategy? What have you seen with businesses that have gone into marketplaces that have not too many sort of bumps in the road, have been successfully being able to kind of scale into those channels?
Yeah, I think it's, as Cass said, that first kind of step is getting the technology backbone in place to make sure that you're set up, you manage your inventory, you can manage your orders, you can manage your shipping and everything that goes with that. It's a huge amount of complexity. So I think getting that right, definitely the key. But then I think really it's about, when I talk about total commerce, it's not about being in every single channel. It's about going after every single opportunity that you have. So i.e., you might not need to be in a home and garden marketplace if you're selling sports goods, right? So it's not about being everywhere, but it's understanding where are your customers first. So I think getting started really is, you got the technology backbone, identifying the environments where those initial opportunities. So maybe just plugging in that 1 or 2 initial marketplaces to start driving revenue growth. You'll learn, build a feedback loop. You'll understand the types of customers in these different environments. Again, different marketplaces bring a different type of customer. And so as you learn, you can then be agile and move into these different environments. So it's not about going into every single channel straight away, but it's really identifying where are the channels that are going to offer me the big high growth opportunities. So again, thinking about, say, an OnBuy, there's a massive amount of growth, and OnBuy, there's a huge base of customers that are looking to purchase. Well, actually, you might say, okay, I have high confidence. I want to go on OnBuy, so I want to go into that channel. That's going to drive me those initial sales. And then as you learn, you understand how to optimize on a channel like OnBuy, drive more growth. So, it's almost like that principle of Rome's not built in a day. You don't want to be in every single channel straight away. You probably don't want to be in every single channel, even eventually, but really building a kind of agile approach to building up your reach into the market so that you don't miss out on any revenue opportunity on top of that kind of strong core operational base.
Great. Some really key points there about the sort of practicalities of getting set up. And now we're going to hand over to Q&A from the audience. I think Chris is coming back in to pass over some questions from the audience.
Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Nadia, for hosting this session. We've got a couple of questions coming through from the audience. And the first one is for you, Cass, which is a question on how do you build trust on your marketplace? Now, I'm guessing, Cass, I think you got a cake this week. So would you like to tell us more about your cake?
Yeah, well... Firstly, building trust on a platform is essential, and OnBuy is obviously committed towards offering the best, customer journeys possible. The key for us is getting the right retailers to start with, and being able to make sure that OnBuy has, the mechanisms to ensure that the retail, all of our retailers are doing what they're supposed to do, delivering the product on time within the expectation of the customer, and all of those things that you would expect. And the trust on OnBuy is definitely increasing and accelerating as we get better at what we do of analyzing potential risks, making sure that our retailers are doing what they do, and that we have the right teams and infrastructure to support that. And as a consequence, as Chris has sort of alluded to, we're actually the highest highest rated marketplace on Trustpilot. So we've grown 30,000 plus reviews on Trustpilot. They sent us a cake this week to award that. And we maintain an excellent rating, which is on the increase. So 4 weeks ago, we were 4.6 out of 5, and this week we're 4.7 out of 5. So we're getting stronger as we grow across 30,000 reviews. Now, if you take the time to go and compare that to other marketplaces, without naming names, you'll be able to see that actually Onbuy is doing a great job of building trust. The other thing that we do is constantly evaluate, our consumer experience, and we run customer satisfaction surveys, and we were able to prove out of our first cohort. So the first time we ran the survey, we achieved an NPS score of plus 43, which for an emerging marketplace is pretty substantial. So I think trust is at the core of what we built our business on. We built our business on the principle of ethics and being able to offer that level playing field. And part of that is definitely to be able to give our customers the service that they expect, and that's how we go about building trust.
Fantastic, thanks, guys. We've got only about 4 minutes left of this session, but there's a question, Callum, that I'd quite like you to go into in a little bit of depth. If anyone does have any other questions, please drop them into the submit a question box beneath the screen. Callum, the question is, how can Limbworks help me sell on social? Now, I'm really interested in this because I see so much coming out of China that they're not just talking about social media platforms like Facebook or TikTok, but they're also talking about messaging. And I know WhatsApp have got messaging coming up, and there's going to be new platforms coming through. How can you help me sell on social today? And what do you think is going to happen with social and with messaging and selling on messaging in the future?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and great question. So I think, social will definitely play a key role in the future. I think, the principle again of the kind of the effortless economy that I talked about, it means that commerce is going to happen wherever we're spending our time. And increasingly, as individuals, more and more of us spending time and more of our time on these social channels. And so these social channels, they understand us through their algorithms, so they can then surface product to us. And so, there's a very kind of clear opportunity for these social channels to monetize their traffic by allowing kind of conversion of sales to take place. So certainly believe social is going to play a key role. It won't be the only environment. Again, there'll be lots of different shopping environments, but it'll definitely be a part of the picture, kind of a slice of that pizza, as it were, that was in the diagram in some of the slides. So then in practice, for us at Limbworks, we see these channels as really important for brands and retailers moving forward. And so Limbworks helps you sell on these channels, but in relation to your product information, so getting your product information onto the channels, inventory, so again, synchronizing your stock levels across these channels, and then managing your orders off these social channels. We look at them the same way that we look at a marketplace or a D2C, kind of a shopping cart style channel. Ultimately, it's another channel for our brands and retailers. So already we've launched with Google, we're launching with Facebook, so that will cover Facebook and Instagram, and then obviously their own WhatsApp as well. So there's more coming through there. And so, I think we look at China, we can see the way the market's going there. And I think that's a very strong leading indicator of how the market in the Western world will go, that we'll see commerce in all of these different environments. And so, for us at Limbworks, that's front of mind, making sure that our customers can then sell into not only the kind of obvious social channels that we see now, but actually those emerging social channels of the future.
And do you think, as a retailer, that I should be thinking about getting on these channels myself, or do you think I should wait for marketplaces to do some of the heavy lifting and leverage getting my products onto social and messaging through marketplace channels?
I think there's going to be a lot of routes to the consumer on these different environments through, shopping cart and marketplaces, or through your kind of core technology platform, the central kind of automation platform. So I think there's lots of different routes to go there. I think ultimately the principle that you got to look at is, where are your customers? Like, is there a real opportunity for your products on Facebook and Instagram? And how do you actually get some products into those environments to actually test and understand if there's a strong return on investment there?
We're getting a few questions in for you, Cass. So we're right up against time. So almost one-word answers if you can. How do we get in touch with strategic account managers? And what are the best performing categories on Onbuy? Now, I think we may have just lost Cass for a second, so I'm going to come back to you, Callum. How can Limbworks and Onbuy and other marketplaces help me meet my sustainability aspirations? And helping customers know that my products are eco-friendly. I'm not sure about this topic. I know a lot of people talk about it, but when it comes down to it, do they care at the end of the day?
I think increasingly people do care. I think historically we've seen a market that was very centered around price. And of course, price still drives consumer behavior, absolutely. But I think increasingly value is understood through things like environmental sustainability. The other one being convenience is a big driver of value. So I actually really do believe this is a kind of big talking point for brands and retailers to be thinking about. It's big. I've been in a number of roundtables recently, and it's definitely front of mind. There's an increasing pressure from the consumer layer. So definitely important in terms of practically how Limworks might be able to help our customers with this. I think firstly, giving them the agility and flexibility to sell on channels that allow them to demonstrate their kind of eco-friendly nature through their products. So not every channel will allow you to demonstrate that in your product information, but some will. So I think, again, Limworks gives you that flexibility to choose your channels that will help you drive that part of your proposition. And the same goes with kind of your back-end workflows, working with carriers that you believe also have a kind of sustainability focus in the way that they go about delivering product to customers, because that's such a big driver of that kind of eco element of the business as well.
Fantastic. And we are out of time. So I want to thank you, Callum and Nadia and Cass, for your huge amount of information. If you'd like to find out more, I know we didn't get through all the questions, please go to the presenting partners showcases where you'll find Limworks Showcase for more information, and come back after the break when we'll be looking at FBA businesses and metrics and health for your business.
Thanks very much, Chris.